Hello, my name is Kim Saha. I'm a physiotherapist and Pilates instructor with my own clinic in Chiswick, West London. I've had 3 children myself. They're aged nearly 7, nearly 5 and 3. And myself, I've got into better shape than I was before having children, and that's just through doing Pilates. I take my time after each child, just going with how my body feels and how my energy levels are. So I'm going to teach you the first things to think about after having a baby and wanting to get back into Pilates or into Pilates for the first time. So let me describe the way that I teach. I was taught by the APPI, that's the Australian Physio and Pilates Institute, and they're a very clinical Pilates or modified Pilates company. So we think about the science behind all the positions that we're getting into and the activation patterns of the muscles and how everything works together. It's a little bit different from traditional Pilates, only just to protect the back and to start working on after you've had a baby. So the basics are, the main thing that we're trying to work on is your deep abdominals, your transversus abdominals. Now this is a corset muscle that runs all the way around from underneath the ribs to the top of the pelvis. It goes from the spine all the way around to the front. Now when you have a baby, 60% of people split down the middle. That's called diastasis recti, and it's where you split to enable for the baby to occupy this space. Now that split never knits back together, and that's a really important thing to remember and to think about when you're starting back off with your Pilates. It will come back together again. Now you can check where you are as far as how many fingers you can fit through that gap. If you come up into a crunch, you can poke your fingers through. Now this is just something that you can do a little bit yourself. You need professionals to do it properly. But you can feel how many fingers you can fit into that gap down in the middle. Now that never comes back together, it never knits back together again, but you can approximate it, you can pull it back together with these deep abdominals. Now the important thing to think about is the outer muscles, so your six-pack muscle and your oblique muscles. If working alone without your deep abdominals, they will pull that apart, and that's when you end up with this tummy that pushes out when you try to do any exercise. You see it with men or women who do a lot of weightlifting as well. They actually push their tummy out because they brace outwards. Now with Pilates, we want to think about everything pulling inwards. So the first thing we need to think about is activating these deep abdominals on their own. That's really important. So if you move too quickly onto doing too many crunches, all you're going to be doing is pulling apart these muscles. The simplest way to know about whether you're doing that right or wrong is when you come into a crunch or an abdominal exercise, does your tummy stay flat as you crunch, or does it push outwards? If it's pushing outwards, you're doing it wrong. So the first thing we need to think about is all the Pilates positioning, the right position of your pelvis, how to contract those deep abdominals, and then moving the legs one at a time whilst we've got those deep abdominals contracted. And then think about layering up the outer muscles, because the second part of what you want to concentrate on with your Pilates is to shorten the distance from here to here. So once you've got everything pulled together and held together with your deep abdominals, then you want to shorten these muscles. Now these, after you've had a baby, are going to be like long, baggy, elastic bands. And everything, in order to get the strength, you're going to push out to try and open out that bagginess and take up the slack of that elastic band. So if you brace to do something, that's what your body wants to do. It wants to brace, and it wants to put some tension on that elastic band. We want to pull it back in so that when you put tension on it, it's shorter. So I have read somewhere that most people's six-pack muscles are actually stretched to 2.5 times their length. Now we need to bring that back together again, shorten it back up, shorten the distance from here to here, as well as pulling everything together. But the order to do it is deep abdominals first to pull together, and then layer up with these outer muscles. So lying down to start with. So I'm going to start from the top down as far as your positioning is concerned. If you lengthen through the back of the neck, tuck the chin, going to open out through the front of the chest. This is something, after having a baby, And whilst breastfeeding, you're going to be all closed down here. We want to open out through the front of the chest. This might be a little bit stiff to start with. Then we need to melt the ribs down. That's another important thing. The ribs are going to flare outwards to accommodate for the baby in the abdominal cavity. So we need to melt the ribs down. And I say melt because we don't want to drag them down using these big muscles that we've been talking about on the outside. We need to melt them down from the back first. So pull the back of the ribs down into the floor. And then I want you to feel the pelvis range. So stick your bottom out. You're going to be more used to this. This is the position you get into while you're pregnant than you are this. But go through that range. That's possibly going to feel really quite stiff. So rocking backwards and forwards. Find the middle. That should be with a little arch underneath the back there. You shouldn't necessarily be able to fit your hand underneath, but a little arch. And you should feel those little muscles in the back gripping just a little bit, just to hold you into that position. So then if you tighten only through your pelvic floor, now you know a lot about this through practicing it, of course you did, throughout the pregnancy and straight after. But if you tighten up through your pelvic floor, what I also want you to do is find your hip bones here, go in an inch, down an inch, push in with your fingers. If you tighten them through your pelvic floor, you should feel a tightening underneath your fingers. If you don't, it's something that you need to keep practicing on. If you do, that's a little bit of proof that these deep abdominals, this transversus abdominis, functions when you tighten through your pelvic floor. Personally, I only like that command for after you've had a baby. If you think about pulling your belly button towards your spine, chances are you're going to be gripping through your obliques and through your six-pack muscles, which is going to stop you using your deep abdominals. So I just want you to think about those pelvic floor muscles squeezing through your pelvic floor. Now, if you squeeze too hard, again, you're going to grip with these muscles. So I want you to lift to a count of 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 5, getting progressively stronger, and that tends to help you just to activate that deep layer. Now your feet should be hip width apart. Once you've got those deep abdominals switched on, your chin's tucked, your chest is open, your shoulders are down away from the ears, your ribs melted down, neutral pelvis, pelvic floor switched on. I just want you to bring one leg up to tabletop and then come back down again, just shuffle up very slightly, and then bring the other leg up to tabletop and come back down. Now what we're looking at is not rocking from side to side with the hips here. We're trying to keep them level. Every time you put the foot down, push into the floor a little bit and activate your bum. You should just feel those deep abdominals working. Again, like I say, the hips are not rocking from side to side. You want to push in here and make sure you're not gripping with those outer muscles. You've just got the deep abdominals switched on. So that's your first one there. Keep going with that. You need quite high numbers with this. Pilates numbers are in your 40s to try and get some endurance of those deep muscles. The deep muscles are your endurance muscles. You think about them as your marathon runners. Your outer gripping muscles are like your sprinters. Now the sprinters are going to get very tired if they're on all day, so they're not going to be very good at a marathon. And so they get tired. When they get tired, they don't support your back. You get back pain. Okay. So we're going to lower one knee out to the side. This is the next one. The hips still pointing forwards, deep abdominals switched on. So one more thing that I can talk about while we're doing this exercise is the relaxant that's released while you're pregnant. That's made all of your joints and your muscles and everything relax, as in the name. So that makes it harder for us to switch things on and harder for us to stabilise our joints. Now, whilst you're still breastfeeding, it's very normal for the relaxant to still be released and for everything to still feel very, very unstable. So as much as Pilates is very effective for that, it also makes it harder for you to progress through your Pilates training. So whilst you're still breastfeeding, it may be that you don't feel the improvements as much as you do when you stop. So it might be a good idea to trundle along doing the easy exercises whilst you're breastfeeding and then start pushing on when you stop. This is experience from myself. Another thing to be aware of is when you have your period, it can also make things relax and make it harder to do your Pilates exercises. Okay, so moving you on to another level, once you have those deep abdominals switched on, I can't say at what point after having a baby this is appropriate, but I think when you start to feel extremely stable doing these exercises and you feel very happy doing them, and lifting up one at a time as well, and then moving on to the next level where you can layer up some of these muscles, and this is where we start working on shortening the difference from here to here. This is where you can start getting results with a flatter tummy, but you've really got to think about it. So we're going to bring the right leg up to tabletop here, and then we're going to think about actually pulling the ribs down to the pelvis at the front. So shorten that distance, draw the ribs down to the pelvis, draw in the tummy, and then peel up the other leg. Right leg back down, left leg back down. So bringing up that right leg, draw the ribs down to the pelvis. Pick up the other one, right leg back down, left leg back down. And I want you to really get used to that feeling of drawing in with the tummy as that second leg lifts up. You'll notice that I have my hands on the front of the tummy here. It wants to push out often when you lift up that second leg. So draw inwards when you pick up the second leg. Good. Keep going with that. Keep concentrating on your posture. Lengthen the back of the neck, widen the front of the chest, ribs down, neutral pelvis. Keep the pelvic floor switched on the whole time. So even when we're layering up with these top muscles, you've got to still keep that pelvic floor switched on. Good. Keep going with that, and then we're going to swap legs. This is one of my favourite exercises to get all of this in position, switched on. You can even check that little gap, what's happening there as you do it. If you get tired, stop, shake the legs off a little bit and start again. I'm going to bring this leg in first now. Good. Got a few more of these to go. So don't worry if you feel like you're not doing this right. I think what you've got to do is just keep going, keep pushing on with it. You will improve. I'm a great believer in just keep doing it, keep reminding yourself of all the postural positions. You might find that one of these postural positions really triggers everything to switch on properly. With me, it's the chin tuck, it's the neck. It's quite amazing how I feel it changes how everything focuses around the tummy. Let's just do 2 more of those. Now it can be really useful for all those aches and pains after you've had a baby, which carried on with me for about a year. Your class has been postnatal for a year after you've had a baby. There's a reason why you have your maternity card that gives you free prescriptions for a year afterwards. It's generally believed that that's as long as it takes. Now if you tuck your bottom under and curl up, this is just quite a nice one to free off some of those aches and pains. Tucking under all the way and roll back down again, back into your neutral. Tuck under, curl up. It's nice to do after each one of the slightly harder exercises that we've done. Okay, let's do 2 more of those. Tuck under, curl up. Curl back down again. Last one. So we can repeat that other exercise that we did on the floor, lowering one knee out to the side. We can do that in tabletop as well, double leg tabletop. Draw the ribs down. Think about a spider's web on the front, squeezing inwards. Pick up the other one, knees and toes together, opening one knee at a time. It just really helps you to keep that contraction from here to here. Like I say, that constant shortening. You want to keep the ribs down. You want to bring the tummy in, essentially. Again, think about the rest of the posture, long neck, wide chest, ribs down. And I always think when you're up in this position, you're pulling everything in that direction. Now if you think about opposing that with your pelvic floor, you've got a really strong cylinder there around here. Drawing down, ribs pull down to pelvis, pelvic floor squeezes up, meets in the middle, and it's really strong. Try and maintain that neutral pelvis as well. Try and keep that little arch in your lower back. Two more. Good stuff. Come back down, one leg at a time. Brilliant. So another one that can be really good is your hundreds. Again, it's trying to shorten this distance. So if you bring up your chin to your chest, come into your crunch, fingertips reaching down towards your toes, lift with the pelvic floor and squeeze up and down with the hands. 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep the chest open. And if you bring one hand behind the head to protect the neck, other hand up and down. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep the elbow wide. See better on this side, nice wide elbow. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good, come back down again. Alright, so another good one really is a crunch. Now a Pilates crunch is always going to be better for your abdominals than just a normal gym crunch that you've probably done before. And that's because we're trying to draw everything in. We want to shorten this different distance, we want to flatten your tummy, because let's face it, that's why we're all here. We want to get rid of back pain, we want to stabilise everything, improve our posture, but generally we want to get our tummy back. So if you put your hands behind your head, nice wide elbows, pull the shoulders down away from the ears. The hands are just framing the head, the arms are framing the head, they're just protecting the neck a little bit. They're not pulling in on it. Now, feet hip width apart and planted down on the floor. And then all we're doing is just crunching up to here. Now you'll notice, all I'm doing is coming up to about bra strap level. I'm just bringing the head and the shoulders off. I'm drawing the ribs down towards the pelvis. I'm keeping in that neutral position. Pelvic floor switched on. Think about 2 springs on the front of you, from the rib to the pelvis in the front, shortening and lengthening. But you don't let go in between. When you get to here, you're still switched on. So it's just shorten and lengthen, shorten and lengthen. Think about that drawing in. If any time really, this is when I think a little bit about belly button towards the spine. But if not, about scooping in the lower tummy here, pulling the hip bones together, the pelvic floor as much as anything. And I really like to think, especially on this one, of everything pushing in that direction, but the pelvic floor scoops up to meet it. Let's do 10 more. Hopefully feeling this a little bit here. Don't worry if your tummy pushes out a little bit to start with, you will get it right. Keep practicing, don't do too many. Keep going on with those initial exercises of activating your deep abdominals. And then you'll get onto this stage, but do practice it. Good, we can start coming over to one side. It can help to have this arm down by your side here, sliding along the floor. Don't lead with the elbow, lead with the shoulder, we're pulling across. If anything, with that rib, lead with that rib pulling across to the front of the hip there. Good. 5 more. 5, and then to the other side. Again, don't lead with the elbow, lead with the shoulder across. The hands just helping the back of the neck there. Keep the chin tucked. Squeezing in your tummy, pelvic floor, neutral pelvis. Good, let's do 5 more. Brilliant. Now, like I talked about before, we need to open out through the front of the chest here. So if we come on the side, you're going to tuck that bottom hip back, hands together. In fact, let's just protect the head again with that arm. We're going to breathe in as the arm comes up. We're going to breathe out as it comes over. We're going to breathe in and down. I'm bending the arm because I've got enough room behind me. So breathe in, breathe out. Good. This just helps to open out the front of the chest and mobilise the upper back, which will have got quite stiff. So this just shows you can do it anywhere. You don't need an enormous amount of room. but it's important to breathe with this one. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. One last one. Brilliant. Come on to the other side. Okay, support the head. Other arm out in front. Tuck that bottom rib back. Tuck the bottom hip back. Bottom under, ribs under. Keep strong around here. Breathing in, breathing out. Looking forward a little bit on this one. Good. Breathe in, breathe out. Trust me, this one's going to feel really nice when you've opened out the chest a little bit, with all of that breastfeeding closing in the front of the chest, the upper back really stiffens. It also stiffens during pregnancy to try and stabilise, because your pelvis gets so unstable, the upper back stiffens to try and lock down and stabilise you. It just makes you uncomfortable, really. Let's do 2 more. Brilliant. So having mentioned stability around the pelvis and how we lose that during pregnancy, it doesn't naturally come back again. So we need to work on that a little bit. So you can either prop yourself up on the hand there, or you can be down on supported here. But the most important thing in this position is to tuck the bottom hip backwards, elongate through that top leg, and then lifting up this knee. So we're just trying to switch on that glute med again. That's the muscle that stabilises the pelvis, keeps it in a good position. I feel a bit more comfortable up through here. Good. So you should very quickly start feeling this muscle here. You want to try not to rock that hip back. Like I say, tuck the bottom hip backwards, ribs under, bottom under. Good. You need to do quite high numbers of these. Let's say 20 with the feet down. And we've got another 5. And then 20 with the feet up. And then we can build it up to many more. We've got lots of videos out on YouTube that you can follow. They're a little bit more advanced than this if you want a bit more of a glutes workout. So we've got 5 more. 5. Brilliant. Other side. Again. Tuck that bottom hip backwards, bottom under, ribs under, and then start lifting that knee. These glute muscles are very much part of your core, so we want to work them nice and strongly. Help stabilise around the pelvis. So some of you might have had pubic symphysis dysfunction around the pelvis, so pain in the front here. And sometimes in the back as well, during your pregnancy. Very normal to get it afterwards, sometimes to only get it afterwards, other times to have it much worse afterwards, or for it just to rumble away for the next year really, so that's very normal. It's really important that you do these stability exercises to keep your pelvis stable, especially if you think about having them. Okay, feet up to hip height and same thing again. Also a bit of a bum lift as well. Because again, let's face it, we're here to reduce the aches and pains, but to get our body back from before having children, which is very important for self-esteem and everything. Okay, so 5 more. Brilliant. Okay, so they're your basics of postnatal Pilates. Some of that might be a little bit advanced for you, some of it might be a little bit easy for you. I've got other videos, like I say, on YouTube that you can have a look through. The basic Pilates workout is going to be a good one. It takes you through the same of that, a few more different exercises, and it gets a little bit more advanced than that as well. So if you want to find out a little bit more about me and what I do, follow me on Snapchat, Kim Saha Physio. My YouTube channel is just Kim Saha. And my Facebook page where you can find out about all the different things that I'm up to and release of different videos, and that's Kim Saha Physiotherapy and Pilates. Okay, well enjoy your workout and good luck getting back in shape.